A summer theme called God's World in Community. And it's important in this theme that we break down the words that we use in our faith so that we can apply them in more significant ways in our daily lives and practices as Christians. Thus, we don't just hear the words, but our goal is to actively live them out. And that is why everyone has been invited to participate in the worship activities over the summer. Things like the bracelets are visual cues and reminders of how to actively stay faithful in God's world and community. Now, what are some of the words that we've done so far? Anybody remember? We did praise. We did singing. We did prayer. So this week's word for God's world and community is thanksgiving, which was also last week's word. And as I struggled with being thankful last week and grateful as an individual, I needed to name that truly it is communal gratitude that is more reflective of God's plan for all of us. Hear that. It's the community that needs to be thankful. There's a book that I'm reading by Lisa Wingate that reminds us of the importance of the individual and the communal. And it has this really cool quote, and if it gets up there, I want you to read it. The smallest things and the largest perspective. To grasp even the faintest bit of it is to look into glory. To both feel insignificant and intricately made all at once. When it comes to thinking about Thanksgiving, insignificant and intricate are really powerful words. Because there are places that seem more attainable. There are places where we feel more significant or even more insignificant all at the same time. I can think of when we sit on a beach or when we see the view from a mountain. When we are able to travel to places to see the vastness of the world. Or maybe when we go to Athens, Texas, Mentone, California, Marysville, Ohio, Benton, Kentucky, or Yosemite, Kentucky. These are cities where many of our church camps are held. Places that have been meaningful to me. Because the place may be actually insignificant. But the impact of the communal experience reminds us that we are truly and intricately linked. We are, as this summer's camp curricula reminds us, we are linked by love. Our true significance is weaved into the complex relationships that are weaved throughout our lives. And so I must share with you, I think that our current mentality, one of the things I struggle with is our current mentality around faith is that many people think that they can engage primarily with their faith alone or in a more individual way. Now, I'm not arguing that we all need those moments where one-on-one divine breath around us to center us, that we need those individual encounters with God, those centering prayerful interactions. But those should not equip us or inform us to avoid the world, but to prepare us to better engage with it, to be community in communion. Because mountains are not made with one rock, oceans are not made with one atom of water, and even your own body is not made with one cell, but 30 trillion cells. And while our faith communities may be changing in how they look and how they respond, our faith conversations and need for one another is something that is vital to continuing to share our faith in both the present and in generations to come. We must remain linked to one another if we are to remain significant in creating God's kingdom on earth. It's powerful to think about we are significantly insignificant. without one another. We cannot truly move forward and build God's kingdom without one another. And we are insignificantly significant when we connect with each other with God leading the way. Now, I read that sentence multiple times in the last week to make sure that that actually made sense, and it does, but you may need to process it. But in other words, one link, one bead from today's activity does not make a bracelet or a necklace. It is many links that ultimately connect us and make something whole from something that was already whole. The link was already a piece and it mattered, but linking it to another piece makes it matter more, and now it's able to be multi-layered. And this scripture today in Psalm 24 reminds us of the things in which we can give thanks that create possibilities for God wholeness. It sings the praises of the earth and the seas and the hills and ourselves. It calls that God's gates are open when we engage in bigger pictures and movements of our faith together. And this psalm is often sung when the community together entered the temple. And thus, within this place, in this sanctuary, or even in this virtual space, we must stay connected to the majesty of what is happening in this moment and the moments beyond. That God is a creator who has invited us as insignificant humans to be connected to the bigger, significant picture of God's love for humanity, to help bring the glory and love of God to the world that needs not just a God, but a significant God who makes us significant individuals in a community of great love and much glory. And for that, we truly can be thankful. Yet learning how to create significant, healthy, and faithful communities that are able to express faithful thankfulness both within our places of worship and outside of them in community, well, that's a challenge. It's a challenge. It's easier to find time to sit in the woods by oneself than it is to find time to sit in the woods with a group of people. And it's easier once that group of people has found time to meet and forget how that group needs to continue to invite others in. And it's easier then to trust into the group than to go back to the woods alone and have to face what may have changed within us, within that community as individuals. It is easier to be insignificant than to realize the significance of ourselves when we are connected to others. It is easier to feel less than to realize that if we are weaving ourselves in significant, prayerful, powerful ways, we can make an impact that is significant and, most importantly, faithful. Who are your communities of faith? How are you engaging in acts of thanksgiving that are intentional and include empowering faith within the conversation outside of this place and even within this place? For me, I think it's helpful to make a list, like these are the communities I hang out with. I hang out with this group, I hang out with this group. These are my communities. Some of them are very faithful, some of them are not. How do I then all of a sudden elevate a different community? So here's the scary part of this sermon for me. I want you to give me an example of a group or community you're thankful for. My job is to add the "and" so that we can intentionally think on how we can use our community with gratitude. So give me a group. I'm going to take 2 or 3. We're going to see if this works. This might be a really bad idea. The rummage sale. The people who come in for our rummage sale. We have a lot of people who come, and that is when they enter this building. So we are thankful for them, but how do we extend that thanks to them? There are intentional things we can easily do. Obviously, we can reach out and share about us, but we can also connect and go, where can I meet you outside of the rummage sale? Or how, when you're here, how can we have conversations that help you grow? Or how can we continue to serve you? So that is a community of faith in which we're able to engage more intentionally. Or we can provide them resources to other places that may be able to help them. Last time there was a double rummage up. I know that our rummage sale and Erlanger's were happening at the same time, and so all of a sudden the conversations were what's happening here and there. So that kind of stuff, that's another place. What's another piece? Another group or community. Yes. Yeah, you raised your hand. What? My friends, my mom friends, who are not watching this at this point, but I hang out with moms. I'm that age. So a lot of times, because they know I'm the pastor, they then start asking questions. And even recently, a group of friends wanted to get together to have more faithful conversations around things. But of course, you have to build trust. I can't obviously go in and just be like, blah, 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 blah. That doesn't help. So you go in and you really build relationship. And with those relationships, then you can pull those pieces together. But that requires us, when you're not the pastor, to help do the spiritual learning and guidance so that you are able to also lead and be a minister out in the world. So those are some of the ways that we can connect thankfulness to action. And of course, I want to then lift up one of the communities that continues to help me put thankfulness into action in big, loving, and godlike ways. Of course, it's camp, right? And while at times I will be the first person to point out that there are some institutional issues around camp and some of the ways in which camp programs need to update their conversations, camp has also given me connections that truly make me thankful in both in good and hard times. And you are also connected to that. So I just wanted to kind of share the thankful images from this summer. A way to be reminded that there are a lot of ways to build faithful communities and conversations. And even if we're not directly connected, there are ways that we can be connected. Or, I have to say my favorite picture of the entire summer is the smile on Michaela's face after she has just pied whoever that poor kid in that is. Anna Jane has popcorn on her face and is truly disappointed that there is no slushy machines at Cairo and is worried about going for that reason. And of course, we see Jack fishing. And then, of course, as you get older, there are more dances and opportunities to come together. I love the picture of Jack as Grandpa back there hanging out, and those are our kids for that. She doesn't sit with you, exactly. So it's a monumental moment, or as Maddie gets ready for the banquet. I kept wondering if Maddie would look at this and take out her pictures, if she noticed. But those are some of the moments from camp this summer, the community, the kids, the... There could be slushies. There might be hope. Somebody tell Anna Jane she might get slushies next year. In conclusion, I am thankfulness is what I try to keep at the center of many of our conversations. And I think that's what we all need to do over the next few months. That we need to seek to build up one another with love and understanding. Thankfulness that we can gather. Thankfulness that we have one another. Thankfulness that we currently live in a society that lets us love and have freedom over fear. Thankfulness that we have kids in this space. Thankfulness that we are just here and present. And so remember that your love is significant. Your gifts are significant. You're a grand piece of God's glorious and intricate creation. And for each of us then, let us be thankful. We are thankful. Amen.